Yuko Yoshida is a 15-year-old high school student who, one day, wakes up awakening with overpowered abilities as a devil. Now she has horns and a tail, and her mission is to defeat a magical girl and obtain her blood to break the curse of her family. On a normal day, we see Yuki being awakened by a strange horned girl who tells her that she is now a demon girl destined to defeat the magical girl who lives in the village in order to restore her clan's glory. Yuko sees everything as part of a very strange dream and decides to go back to sleep. But the horned girl gets desperate and scolds her, telling her she's a very lazy heiress. After that, Yuko wakes up, but when she goes to the bathroom and looks in the mirror, she realizes she now has horns and a demon tail. Yuko runs to her scared mom to show her her horns and tail. But her mom, calm, looks at her and tells her it's time to tell her the truth about their family. She confesses to her and her sister that they are not ordinary humans, that the entire Yoshida family are descendants of the dark clan that was eradicated many years ago. Yuko thinks it's all a dream and tries to go back to sleep, but her mom stops her, telling her she shouldn't run away from reality. Yuko then realizes her mom hasn't started making rice yet. But her mom confesses another secret and tells them both that the reason they live in poverty is because of their mortal enemies, the Light Clan. She tells them that they sealed the power and luck of their family and that's why they now appear as ordinary humans, also mentioning that they imposed a curse of only $400 a month, where if the family earns more money than that during the month, it will magically disappear. Yuko's mother continues, telling her that in order for them to break the curse and for their family to prosper again, she must break the seal to regain the evil energy of her clan and thus undo the curse. Yuko says she doesn't want to become evil, but her mother tells her that if she breaks the seal, their family's financial situation will improve, and they'll be able to buy more food, which excites Yuko, asking if they'll also be able to eat pancakes more often, to which her mother responds yes. Yuko asks what she should do, and her mother tells her she must seek to defeat a magical girl, and then drain her blood and give it to the statue of the demon god of their ancestors, the object she has been using as a doorstop because she couldn't find a better place. Her mother tells Yuko that she must now choose her demon name. Stunned, Yuko says she must think about it since she's still processing everything. But her mom chooses her name as Shadow Mistress Yuko and sends the request for her name to be registered in the demon directory. After that, Yuko goes out to hunt the magical girl from her village, but on the way, she realizes she doesn't know how to do it. As she walks, absorbed in her thoughts, a dog starts barking at her, causing her to trip, fall into a water well, and then run away. Along the way, she drops the statue of her ancestor. Yuko rushes to grab it but ends up in the middle of the street and is about to be run over by a truck when the magical girl from the village arrives at that moment and rescues her. Seeing that her mortal enemy is the one saving her, Yuko takes out her fork weapon to confront her. But the magical girl thinks she's hungry and gives her bread. Yuko realizes she's feeling sorry for her and runs off, telling her not to think she's won. But as she leaves, she thanks her for the bread. The next day at school, Yuko tells her friends how she's now a demon girl and must defeat a magical girl to end the curse on her family and improve their financial situation. One of her friends tells Yuko that there's a magical girl studying in their school who's in class, so they all go to class and see Chiyoda Momo. Upon seeing her, Yuko recognizes her as the magical girl who saved her the day before. Her friends tell Yuko that Momo is quite strong, that in gym class, they had to use 4 dynamometers to get an accurate reading of her grip strength. Upon hearing this, Yuko wants to leave because there are only 5 minutes left of recess, but her friend stops her, telling her she still has time. She then calls out to Momo, telling her that Yuko is there to challenge her. Momo comes out to talk to her. Yuko, although nervous, introduces herself as Shadow Mistress Yuko, a demon girl who is there to defeat her. Yuko prepares her fierce attack and unleashes all her fury against the magical girl, but she withstands it and remains unharmed without any blows, although none of Yuko's blows were actually strong or lethal. Exhausted, Yuko laments on the ground for not having eaten more to have more energy. Hearing this, Momo tells her that if that's the problem, she can give her bread, but Yuko stops her, telling her that if she gives her bread out of pity, she'll start crying. Upon hearing her, Momo asks her to get up and then teaches her how to throw a punch. Yuko now with her new knowledge attacks her, and although she doesn't cause any damage, this time the blow could be heard. Seeing that she was no match for her archenemy, Yuko runs away with tears in her eyes, telling her that she hasn't defeated her yet. That day, while Yuko's sister is on her way home, she sees Yuko training, and then they both walk home together. The next day, while going to school, Yuko meets her 2 friends. Henry reminds her of her embarrassing defeat the day before, saying that if it were a soccer match, it would have been a crushing defeat of 7-1. Yuko gets excited upon hearing her friend's generosity in giving her a point. At school, Yuko says it's understandable that she lost since a level 1 demon girl can't be a match for a level 99 magical girl. While she talks about how she should train to defeat her archenemy, Momo is behind her listening to everything she says, who comments that she, as a magical girl, is quite weak. Yuko is surprised to hear her suddenly appear and asks her what she's doing there. Momo tells her she came to see how she was doing since many demon girls, if not controlled, end up becoming monstrous problems. But she doesn't seem like she'll become one. Yuko asks her if she's really weak, and Momo confesses that she is. Yuko asks her again since she heard that she was able to save the world. But Momo tells her she could only do it because she had powerful allies. Upon hearing this, Yuko panics because now she not only has to worry about Momo but also about other even more powerful magical girls. Yuko decides to end their conflict and challenges her to a duel that afternoon after school. Amri reminds her that she hasn't finished her training yet and won't be able to do it in 6 hours. Yuko corrects herself and asks to postpone their duel until the weekend afternoon, which Momo accepts without any problems. Yuko starts training, and on Sunday, she is going to face Momo in their duel. When she arrives at the agreed upon place, she notices Momo is quite tan. Momo tells her she didn't know what day they were going to meet, so she spent the entire previous day waiting for her and got sunburned because of the strong sun. Yuko apologizes for not being clear with her, but Momo dismisses the matter and gives her number so they can communicate more efficiently in such moments. After exchanging numbers, Yuko tells her it's time to start their duel, that she's been training for it. Momo tells her she can tell since she has developed more muscle. Although little, she can see her results, but tells her that before they start, it would be best to warm up. After both finish stretching, Momo tells her it's time to run, and they both start running by the river. As they progress, Yuko notices tiredness in her body. When they finally reach the end, Momo tells her they can start, but Yuko is exhausted from the warm-up and can't fight. Momo realizes this and asks her if she wants to postpone their duel until the next day. Yuko agrees and thanks her, but realizing they ran more than 3 miles, she asks to borrow money to go home on public transport. Momo gives her the money without any problems and also gives her some water to refresh herself. On the subway, Yuko can't hold back her tiredness and falls asleep on the way home, missing her station and ending up much further away than before. The next day, Yuko tells her mom everything she did the day before in her duel against Momo. Her mom tells her that now, to help her in her fight against the magical girl, she will increase her allowance from 125 yen to 500 yen. That same day at school, Yuko excitedly shows her 500 yen to her friends. Then Momo arrives, and when Yuko sees her, she returns the water bottle she gave her the day before and tells her she will strive to be a respectable demon girl who will always return everything she borrows. Momo, upon hearing her, tells her that if that's the case, then she could also return the 500 yen she lent her yesterday for transportation. Yuko realizes that's exactly the amount of money she has, and even though it's all the money she has, she decides to pay Momo back, unable to contain her tears. Seeing her and realizing this, Momo suggests agreeing on monthly payments of 50 yen so she won't run out of money. Additionally, she tells her that as long as she owes her, they won't be able to fight because if she loses, she'll feel bad because she won't be able to repay the borrowed money and will be pursued by the debt for the rest of her life. Yuko realizes this and decides to accept postponing their duel until she finishes paying the 10 installments of the loan. Later that day, to cheer up Yuko, Amri suggests they go shopping to get a weapon with which Yuko can defeat Momo later. After school, they all go to the mall together, including Momo. There, Yuko realizes that any weapon she could use costs more than 500 yen. As they pass by the food fair, she is tempted to buy something but resists. However, seeing her friends, they tell her she should eat to nourish herself better and be stronger for her future duel. Yuko, although reluctant at first, gives in to temptation and ends up spending the 500 yen. When they finish, Amri apologizes to Yuko for making her spend all her money but tells her she feels very happy because they finally got to spend time together since she almost never has time because of her extra school activities and because Yuko always goes home early. Upon realizing this, Yuko feels happy about the time she spent with her that day. The next day, the strange horned girl who woke up Yuko to tell her she was a demon girl appears in her dreams again. Yuko tries to go back to sleep, but she stops her to explain that she is her ancestor and reminds her of her goal to defeat the magical girl to regain her clan's glory. Surprised, Yuko asks her if she has ever won a fight against the Light Clan in all her years of existence, but the ancestor pretends not to hear and shows Yuko the decorations she put in the dream, implying that no, she has never won a fight against the Light Clan. The ancestor then tells Yuko that since she awakened her demon girl powers, she has been watching her, and she comments that she is a rather weak descendant, that she should eat more, gain more stamina, and train more. Then the ancestor explains to Yuko that her clan has the ability to dive into the dreams of other people and manipulate them freely. Upon hearing that, Yuko gets excited about what she could achieve and praises her ancestor for her great power. The ancestor also tells Yuko that over the years, it has been a piece of cake for her to enter the consciousness of her descendants. But with her, it has been somewhat difficult because her soul is too weak for her sensor to detect, telling her that if she were a cell phone, her signal is very weak and almost seems like she has put her consciousness in airplane mode. While they are still asleep, Yuko hears her mom calling her to wake up, and the ancestor begins to fade away. But then Yuko sees a projection of her still sleepy self, but her mom keeps calling her, and the connection is cut off again. Before leaving, the ancestor tells Yuko that her memory will be unstable, and that she should write everything down so she won't forget, and she tells her that she can have everything offered to the statue as an offering. While Yuko tries to remember everything, her mom calls her, telling her that breakfast that day is pancakes. Upon hearing that, the ancestor tells her not to worry, that she understands perfectly, that she has to go eat pancakes. Upon waking up, Yuko hurries to write down what her ancestor told her, but then her mom asks her to write down the list of things she will buy. She starts telling her everything she should write down, and between that and what she should remember from the dream, Yuko overloads and doesn't finish writing down either of the two things. But before she starts worrying about what she forgot, her mom reminds her to eat her pancakes before they get cold, and then Yuko remembers that's why she woke up and eats happily and without worries. Later that day, Yuko asks her mom to wash her uniform since she was the one who got it dirty. Then, when her mom notices, she sees that Yuko didn't wash the uniform well, and it ended up shrinking. So the next day, Yuko ends up going to school in gym clothes because she doesn't have any more uniforms. Anri, upon seeing her, asks her why she's wearing that clothes, and when Yuko explains the situation, Momo suddenly appears out of nowhere, saying that she has an extra uniform and gives it to her. Yuko, surprised by the suddenness of the situation, accepts it but tells her she has many questions to ask her. When she puts on the new uniform, it's too big for her, but Momo tells her she looks cute. Yuko tells her that as soon as her new uniform arrives, she will return it. That day, while Yuko practices and tries to think of ways to defeat Momo, her sister gives her the idea of using projectiles against her to stay away from her brute force. The next day, she tells her plan to her friends, but while she does, Momo arrives and decides to fix her uniform for her. She takes out her emergency kit and tells Yuko that she learned this skill because during battles her clothes always broke, so she decided to learn to repair them to not buy more clothes every time she fights. Then she mentions that she heard their conversation and that if Yuko wants to use projectiles in battle, she could help her. Later that day, both go to an old factory owned by Momo to practice. There, she decides to teach Yuko and takes out her magical girl wand for Yuko to use. She tells her to channel her power through a word, shout it out, and be accompanied by a strong feeling. Yuko starts shouting what she wants, random words that come to mind, and among those she chooses, she says, "I want everyone to be friends," and with that, she manages to make a small energy ball come out of the wand, but the power is very weak. It starts to follow Yuko, but it moves very slowly. She asks if it will hurt, and Momo tells her that it might hurt the same as an intramuscular injection. Upon hearing that, Yuko returns the wand to Momo and runs away so that she doesn't get hit by the energy ball. Later, Momo follows her to ask if her phrase was really "I want everyone to be friends." Yuko thinks she will mock her and tells her she hasn't lost yet, but as she slows down a bit, the energy ball hits her, and she feels a pinch like an intramuscular injection. Yuko, Shadow Mistress Yuko, who everyone now calls Shamiko, woke up a few days ago as a demon girl, and is still discovering all the secrets that come with it. At school, she prays to the statue of her ancestor to offer some offerings. Her friends bring her some more offerings while Momo asks what she's doing. Shamiko explains everything to her and she understands. Then, she grabs the statue and starts inspecting it, realizing that it has a switch on the bottom. Without asking, she presses it, and at that moment, Shamiko faints. She appears in the dream space where her ancestor is. The ancestor wasn't expecting her and asks her to wait a moment. She starts fixing everything and changes to look more presentable. Then, when she's ready, she explains to Shamiko that she finally met the conditions and was able to activate the switch. So now she can take control of her body to go out into the outside world. The ancestor takes possession of Yuko's body and threatens Momo that she will defeat her because she is her mortal enemy. But then Shamiko's friends tell her that since she started hanging out with Momo, she looks happier, eats better now, and is even healthier. The ancestor thanks her for that, saying she also owes her for saving Shimiko from the truck. Nevertheless, the ancestor decides to attack and tries to throw the chair at Momo, but Shimiko's body doesn't have enough strength, and she ends up stumbling. Momo explains that she doesn't have the strength she used to because Yuko's body can't perform the movements she's trying to do. Then, the ancestor decides to use magic, but only a small energy ball comes out, which bounces back to her, feeling like a pinch from an intramuscular injection. On the ground, unable to do anything, the ancestor gives up to Momo, asking for one last wish before leaving. Later that day, when Shimiko returns to her body, she appears in some hot springs with Momo and her friends. They tell her that was Lilith's wish. Her ancestor decides that. Momo also tells her that she borrowed money for them to go to the hot springs, and now her debt with her increased by another 1750 yen. The next day, to help Shimiko pay off her debt, Anri offers her a one-day job at the Maruma shopping center. That night, Shimiko asks her mom for permission to go to the job offer, and she says yes but warns her to be careful because if they exceed 40,000 yen per month, the extra money will find a way to disappear. The weekend arrives, and Shimiko goes to work at her friend Anri's offer. She will help at her family's meat stall, where she will give out free sausage samples to customers to make them buy. Anri's mom explains to her how to make the sausages, and she learns quite quickly. Then, Yuko starts thinking about what she had never imagined she could do once she defeats Momo. And she comes up with the idea of selling sausages at the end of the day since they're tasty, and she can make money. She plans to start selling the ones Anri's mom offered her at the end of the day after work. While she's doing that, Momo arrives at the mall and sees her working. She approaches to ask what she's doing, and Shimiko confesses that she's working to pay off what she owes her. She gives her a sausage sample, and Momo likes it a lot. Then, accidentally, Shimiko knocks over the plate with the sample sausages, but Momo transforms to save them all. She does this in 0.8 seconds thanks to her speed as a magical girl. Momo confesses to Shimiko that she hardly ever transforms because she doesn't have pleasant memories of her time as a magical girl. But she did it to help her because she didn't want all her effort to go to waste because of a mistake. After that, she decides to buy a lot of sausage packages since she liked them a lot, and then she decides to leave, wishing Shimiko good luck. At the end of her shift, Anri's mom congratulates Shimiko because thanks to her, they sold a lot. But since the sausages are sold out, she won't be able to give her any, so she offers her yogurt instead. Then, Yuko realizes that Momo was the one who bought the most sausages, and it's thanks to her that she won't be able to take the sausage package to start her dream business. The next day, Ryoko, Shimiko's sister, asks her for an interview for her school project because she admires her a lot. This excites Shimiko, who is determined to become a sister worthy of admiration. She then goes to school ready to pay off her debt with Momo, but Momo tells her she doesn't want to take all her money, and encourages her to spend it on something else and to keep making payments in installments. Shimiko mentions that she wants to hit her to then use the remaining money for a gift for her sister. Upon hearing this, Momo tells her she can't accept the money and asks her to use it all to buy a gift for her sister. After that, they both go to the mall, where they meet Ryoko, but before that, Yuko asks Momo not to tell her sister that she is a magical girl because she always tells her sister that they have epic battles. When Ryoko arrives, Shimiko introduces Momo as her best friend. After that, she tells her sister that she wants to give her something with the money she earned from work. At first, Ryoko refuses, but then they decide to go look for a gift. While they walk, Momo notices that Ryoko is interested in a digital camera. Upon hearing this, she calls Shimiko and tells her what she saw. Shimiko goes to her sister and asks her if she really wants that camera. Although Ryoko tries to hide it, she reveals her tremendous desire for that camera. And in the end, Shimiko ends up buying it for her. Later that day, Ryoko wants the first photo she takes with her new camera to be of her sister and her best friend. Initially, Shimiko is embarrassed by this request, but she and Momo agree to take the photo. After that, Momo explains to Ryoko that to view the photos from that camera, she will have to transfer them to a computer via USB, and that if she wants to retouch them, she should use special programs. When Shimiko hears this, she leaves with her sister because she feels she has been defeated again by Momo, but kindly asks her to continue teaching her sister about computers later. The next day at school, Momo gives her a laptop to give to her sister. Momo has decided to give it to her as she had an extra one, and she wants to help Ryoko. Momo also warns Shimiko about its fragility and tells her not to let water fall on it, not to hit it or let it fall on the ground. Yuko now embarks on the difficult mission of going home while avoiding all possible obstacles while protecting the laptop. As she leaves school, Amri calls her, and she almost makes her knock down the laptop from the scare, but she manages to avoid it. After this, she meets Agura, who is carrying a bucket of water. Shimiko manages to make her put it down to talk, but then she gives her some black balls specially designed to increase her magical powers. Agura reveals that she is a big fan of demons and has done experiments that could help her. After this, Shimiko continues and manages to leave school, but on the way, she meets the dog that barked at her the day she met Momo and made her fall. In the midst of worry while trying to pass this obstacle, Shimiko transforms and puts on her battle suit, which is the same as her ancestors, although she is embarrassed by how it looks since the outfit shows a lot of skin. Despite this, Shimiko manages to reach home, but as she enters, she lets her guard down and slips, dropping the laptop. Then Ryoko arrives and accidentally steps on the laptop. After that, her mother, upon hearing her arrive, goes to greet her but accidentally drops a pot full of water on the laptop. Everyone worries about the laptop. Shimiko opens her bag but realizes that Momo had protected it. She also finds a note explaining that she added water and shock protection to the laptop and that if it gets damaged, she shouldn't worry because she can repair it. Shimiko realizes this and feels she has lost to her archenemy again, but she doesn't give up and is still determined to defeat her someday. That same night, while she sleeps, the ancestor appears in Shimiko's dream, telling her that for some reason, her magical powers have increased. She starts explaining how her powers work to enter others' dreams and tells her that she could enter Momo's dreams to implant an idea and defeat her later. Furthermore, she explains that even in her battle form, her abilities increase, although Shimiko explains that she feels embarrassed to wear so little clothing in public. The ancestor doesn't understand it but promises to redesign her outfit later. Then Lilith gives her a dream mirror to enter Momo's dream. After trying for a while, Yuko manages to enter the mirror and falls into a very dark dream about a magical girl. Upon seeing her, she realizes it's Momo, but she's much smaller. The little Momo asks her who she is, and Shimiko explains everything. After that, she tells her that she went there hoping she could break the seal on her family. In that moment, little Momo tells her that she can't help her because her magic will weaken if she gives her some of her blood to break the seal. And if that happens, she won't be able to help maintain peace. But as she says this, she becomes sad, commenting that she has done a fairly poor job anyway. More darkness starts to accumulate. Seeing this, Shimiko transforms and decides to help little Momo clean everything up. After a while of sweeping and scrubbing, they manage to clean up much of the dirt that had accumulated. After that, Shimiko gives little Momo a cola to refresh herself after all the effort they put in. Then, she tries to implant the idea in Momo's mind to help her, but realizes she's run out of time and wakes up. The next day, on her way to school, she meets Momo, who looks quite pale and tired. Yuko calls the school saying that Momo will be absent due to illness and then takes her home to rest. When they arrive at Momo's house, Shimiko is surprised by how big it is. Once inside, Shimiko asks her where the medicine is, but Momo tells her she doesn't have any medicine because she never gets sick. After a while, Momo finally falls asleep. At that moment, Yuko notices a small cut on her hand. Seeing this, she decides to clean it with her handkerchief and treat the wound before leaving. Upon arriving home, Shimiko realizes she had forgotten her ancestor's statue. She apologizes and puts it in her bag with her handkerchief, but as she does this, the statue starts to glow. Just then, someone knocks on the door. Shimiko sees that it's Momo who is knocking. Shimiko asks her what she's doing there since she still looks quite unwell, but Momo tells her she followed her to see where she lived. She explains that before she wouldn't have been able to find her because there's a barrier preventing any magical girl from encountering a demon or their house unless they invite her. Shimiko dismisses this and invites Momo in. She serves her some frozen udon with cold noodle broth and fresh ginger to eat and feel better. Seeing how delicious the food is, Momo praises Shimiko for her cooking skills. Then, without further ado, Momo asks Shimiko directly if she undid the seal. Yuko looks confused. Momo explains that she took her blood, but Shimiko tells her she only did it to clean it, showing that she hadn't realized what she had done. Just then, they hear someone speaking, and it turns out to be the ancestor who, now that she has touched a bit of Momo's blood by being in contact with the handkerchief, can communicate from the statue. Lilith explains everything to both of them and then thanks Momo for the trip to the spa the other day. After hearing everything, Momo tells Shimiko that her magic is now weak, and that she will have to help her protect the city. That's why she'll seek to train her hard to increase her magic and become a strong ally. After that, Shimiko takes Momo to her house and helps her during the entire week she's sick, cooking and cleaning the house. Although it was hard work, at the end of the week, Shimiko feels satisfied with what she has done and excited about what could come. The next day, when Shimiko is on her way to school, she meets Momo, who she asks what she's doing there since she's still sick. Momo tells her she went out to buy some food. But then Shimiko realizes that Momo has only bought processed food because she's not interested in eating more complex meals. Although the truth is that Momo doesn't know how to cook, so Shimiko offers to cook for her whenever she needs it. Later that day, when Shimiko returns home, her mother tells her that all the money that had disappeared has been recovered, telling her that this is proof that the curse of the 40,000 yen per month has finally disappeared. To celebrate, she decides to perform the special family ritual of cooking delicious food to be happy. Shimiko's mother buys everything to make okonomiyaki that night, and although the curse has been broken, she has decided to take things slowly and still not buy luxurious things to eat. At that moment, Lilith speaks to Seiko, Shamio's mother, telling her that she also wants to be part of the special dinner. As an apology, Seiko gives her a canned whiskey with soda to the ancestor and then puts her in a sake bath to continue enjoying the night, all to keep her under control and not mention any delicate or complicated topics. Shimiko takes advantage of her mother teaching her the okonomiyaki recipe to learn how to prepare it for Momo. Then, when everything is ready and Yuko tries it, she is delighted by the extraordinary taste of the dish and decides to take that taste as a happy place to return to whenever she needs peace and concentration. When they finish, Shimiko goes to the refrigerator to get something cold to drink, but she realizes that it has stopped working. Initially worried, Seiko is glad that she will be able to buy a more modern refrigerator with the extra money she has, but so that all the food she bought doesn't go to waste, she decides to prepare more and make everyone eat extra so that nothing is wasted. Since they have a lot of food prepared, Shimiko goes to Momo's house to give her some food so she can eat healthily, explaining what she should do to keep the food from spoiling, and then runs off in the rain, asking her to take care of herself. The next day, Momo, now recovered, finally goes to school. During recess, she ties Shimiko to a large truck wheel to start her training, telling her that although she is weak now, the blood of the Dark Clan runs through her veins, so she should be capable of great feats of strength. Henry arrives and sees the training that Momo is giving Shimiko. She gives some advice on how to train her more according to her level so that Yuko doesn't end up being pushed beyond her current abilities. Before leaving, Henry tells Shimiko that she has another job for her over the weekend and asks her to go to her family's meat stand afterward. As part of the training, Momo asks Shimiko to tell her what she fears the most, but she doesn't answer and asks Momo what her greatest fear is. Momo says she's most afraid of the strawberry-filled matcha balls they sell at the mall. Shimiko decides to run to buy them so Momo can face her fears and overcome them. When she returns, Shimiko realizes that Momo tricked her, but Momo says it served its purpose because she was able to run and exercise. However, she confesses that she hadn't eaten those matcha balls in over 10 years because they remind her of her past, something she's really afraid of. That's why she wants to force herself to eat them to overcome that fear and become strong again, like before her magic was drained by the blood she lost. The next day, Shimiko goes to the mall where Anri had summoned her for her new job. There, she gives her a mascot costume to attract people to the food stand. Yuko takes the job seriously and starts, but after a while, a strange girl arrives, and when Shimiko sees her, she realizes she's another magical girl who has come to the city. Shimiko asks the girl if she's wearing a cosplay, but her suspicions are confirmed. She's another magical girl. She tells Shimiko that she's patrolling the city because she heard that the magical girl in that city had a confrontation with a demon, and her blood was drained, so she came to help her, wanting to find that demon to crush it. Upon hearing this, Shimiko gets even more nervous because she doesn't want to be crushed. The magical girl sees that Shimiko, in her cat suit, is acting weird and forces her to undress. When she manages to take off the suit, she realizes that she's the demon girl. Finding herself in that situation, Shimiko transforms and changes into her battle suit unintentionally. At that moment, the magical girl apologizes since it wasn't her intention to scare her. Just then, Momo arrives and sees both of them amidst the confusion. Mikan apologizes for everything, but Momo reassures her and tells both of them to clean up. When they finish, Mikan explains that her curse is a side effect of an incident she was in when she was young. Everyone continues to try to pick up the trash, but it takes longer than usual because sometimes Mikan's curse gets out of control. When they finish, Shimiko stays behind to organize everything but realizes that she accidentally mistook her ancestor for a bottle of tea and put her in the recyclable plastic bags. The next day, while they're training, Momo asks Shimiko why she was naked in the mall the other day, but she explains that the embarrassing suit is her battle outfit. Then, Lilith tells Momo that she herself designed the suit to strengthen the latent powers of her clan, and that when Shimiko wears it, she is slightly more powerful. Momo, upon hearing that, asks Shimiko to transform and learn to do it at will to help protect the city. Shimiko tries to transform but fails because she's not in a crisis situation. When Momo hears that Shimiko needs to be in danger to transform, she decides to go after her. She ties Shimiko up and threatens to shoot her with an energy beam if she transforms, but while charging her power, Shimiko faints from exhaustion. Mikan explains that Momo is weak because her magic was drained and she's still recovering, confessing to Shimiko that when a magical girl uses all her power, she then dematerializes, and her particles scatter in the air until they disappear. Shimiko worries because she didn't know anything about it and decides to take her training more seriously to help Momo protect the city and prevent her from dematerializing. When she wakes up, Shimiko tells her she will work harder now and can do whatever it takes to make her scared and transform. But when she sees that Momo takes it seriously and is about to hit her to help her, she regrets it and transforms out of nervousness. When Momo sees she achieved her goal, she lets her go, and Shimiko runs home embarrassed by her battle suit that she still doesn't know how to remove voluntarily. The next day, while Shimiko thinks about how to get stronger to beat Momo, Anri appears and tells her that if she can't get physically strong quickly, she could try to get smarter. Shimiko decides to challenge Momo to an intelligence fight. She tells her whoever gets the highest score wins, and if she loses, she'll do 100 push-ups for each point difference between their scores. Momo hesitates but accepts the challenge when Shimiko tells her the condition of the push-ups. However, she also confesses that she's quite good and has high grades, so they decide to compete in history, which is the subject that gives Momo the most trouble. That night at home, Shimiko decides to study hard to beat Momo. While studying, Lilith asks her what she's doing. Shimiko explains the whole situation, saying she needs to learn more about history to win. Then the ancestor offers her help to Shimiko since she's over 4,000 years old and knows a lot about history. She also shows her they can communicate telepathically, so during the exam, she could ask for help. Shimiko initially refuses to cheat, but Lilith convinces her that she won't cheat, but rather use her demon powers to beat the magical girl, making it all fairer. The next day, Shimiko meets Momo, who tells her she studied hard to beat her because she always takes her seriously and sees her as a strong rival to beat. She tells her she has never underestimated her and always does her best in their encounters. Later that day, during the exam, Shimiko decides not to cheat and ends up handing Lilith's statue to the teacher, asking her to take care of it as it's very precious to her. Yuko starts taking the exam and tries her best. Some days later, she received her grades and managed to get an 88, but Momo got 95 points. So not only did Shimiko lose, but now she has to do 700 push-ups. Momo takes Shimiko to the scoreboard and shows her that Lilith also participated in the exams. She explains that when the teacher took her, she mentioned that she knew a lot about history. Due to this, the teacher asked if she wanted to take the exams, to which the ancestor accepted and ended up being the one who got the highest grade. Momo, upon hearing this, realizes that she wasn't beaten by Shimiko but by Lilith. The next day, Shimiko sees that her mother is doing the new refrigerator dance as she's very excited because it will arrive today. However, when it finally arrives, it turns out to be too big to fit through the door, so they have to exchange it, which leaves her mother very sad. Later that day, Mikan invites Shimiko to the movies, saying she wants to practice controlling her emotions while watching a horror movie but wants to be accompanied. In the end, during the movie, Mikan, trying to contain her curse, also ends up holding her breath and faints, so she remains unconscious throughout the movie. When they leave the cinema, they meet Momo, who had gone to see a movie on her own. Mikan apologizes to her for leaving her alone, but she says she understands and leaves. Mikan thinks Momo is upset and gets sad, which triggers her curse and ends up damaging the popcorn machine. In the end, she still pays the cinema for the trouble caused. The next day, Shimiko wakes up late, quickly changes to go to school. Lilith suggests she switch to battle mode to go faster, but Shimiko considers it and ultimately doesn't do it because her battle suit is embarrassing, and she doesn't want everyone to see her with little clothing. At school, she meets Agura, who knows she's been training to get stronger and offers to help her since she knows a lot about demons. Agura takes Shimiko to her lab, and Momo joins them to watch over Shimiko in case she's in danger. Shimiko tells Momo that Agura is Anri's friend and is in the occult club. Agura says the school lets her do experiments because she's good in her classes. In fact, she's number 1 in the school in grades. When they arrive at the lab, and Momo sees it's creepy, she tells Agura she won't let her experiment on Shimiko because it could hurt her. Agura explains all the experiments she wants to do, but Momo rejects them all because they're too dangerous. Then Lilith speaks, and when Agura hears her, she gets excited because she knows she's Shimiko's ancestor's statue. She asks Momo permission to experiment with her, and the magical girl agrees. Shimiko tells her to stop, but the ancestor decides to sacrifice herself so Agura can do her experiments and leave Shimiko alone. As her last words, she asks Shimiko to make her a hot bowl of udon when she gets home. Agura starts experimenting with Lilith's statue and then molds arms and legs for her, asking her to stand up. Lilith tries, manages to move, but ends up looking like a weird giant insect. Shimiko says she looks like one of the cow decorations made with eggplant for Aubin. Then Momo gives Lilith another container, this time a doll she just made with clay, to try as a temporary body. The ancestor easily adapts to that body but asks in return for her to help her enter Shimiko and be a good example for her. Later that day, Shimiko's mom is happy because thanks to her Tama Sakura Shopping District points card, she can redeem 3 free fancy dishes for the house. Shortly after, Ryoko tells Shimiko that Momo's laptop has been acting strange because it turns on but then turns off after a few minutes. Yuko decides to go to Momo's house with the laptop so she can check it, ready to be scolded or hit for damaging it. When they arrive at Momo's house, Shimiko asks Momo if she can keep helping her and not reveal to Ryoko that she's a magical girl. Momo agrees but tells Shimiko that usually people who suffer the most when keeping secrets are those who don't tell the truth to their loved ones. After hearing this, Shimiko reflects and decides to tell her sister the whole truth. When Shimiko tells her everything, Ryoko says she already suspected it but tells her she understands that Momo is a magical girl who has joined her army. Shimiko tries to clarify everything by saying it's not true, but Momo quietly, and a little embarrassed, says that statement is not far from the truth. Shimiko asks Momo why she lied, and she says she does it because there are smiles in the world that deserve to be protected. Just then, Mikan arrives, and when she sees Ryoko, she introduces herself as another magical girl. Ryoko, excited, asks if she's also part of her sister's army, but before Mikan can answer, Momo stops her and takes her away to continue with the game. Before leaving, Momo tells Shimiko that the laptop wasn't damaged and only turned off because it was overheating, giving her instructions on what to do to prevent this from happening. Back at home, seeing how excited Ryoko is because her sister has 2 magical girls in her army, Shimiko decides to strive to live up to her sister's expectations. Later, in her room, she tries to jot down everything she knows about Momo but realizes she knows very little about her, so she decides to ask her sister, hypothetically speaking, how she would make her enemy reveal their secrets. Ryoko says she would find a way for her enemies to owe her favors to convince them later to reveal their secrets openly. Upon hearing this, Shimiko realizes how calculating her sister is, but now she has a plan. More or less, Shimiko thinks about the best way to get Momo to open her heart and tells Lilith she plans to make her a delicious lunch every day until she reveals her secret. But Lilith tells her she can use her dominance ability to enter her dreams and implant a deep respect for her so that she'll easily reveal her secrets. Shimiko asks if doing something like that wouldn't be cheating, but the ancestor tells her that in war, she must use all her arsenal if she doesn't want to lose and to not disrespect her rival. In the end, Shimiko agrees and decides to go to sleep to enter Momo's dream. When she falls asleep, she easily reaches Momo's subconscious, but only to its outer region, so she has to go deeper herself. There, she encounters a human-like form of Momo's cat guarding a door. He asks her what she's doing there, and Shimiko tells him she's there to invade Momo's heart. The cat reacts to this and tells her she can't pass, preparing to attack. Shimiko changes to her battle form and then runs away. While running, she remembers that in the subconscious, she can summon any weapon she imagines. But desperate, the only thing she can think of summoning is her ancestor's statue with legs to defend her. The cat, seeing this, transforms and starts chasing her like an insect. Yuko uses this to her advantage and goes to the door, but there she realizes it has a code to open. Although she tries several combinations, Shimiko can't guess the code. Then she thinks of summoning a delicious lunch and calling Momo to open the door so they can eat together. Momo appears and opens the door for her to enter. Once inside, the ancestor communicates with Shimiko and tells her that Momo is having a lucid dream and can distinguish that this Shimiko is the real one. She also comments that she can't help her due to the seal, and then she withdraws because her magic is running out, more or less. Momo tells Shimiko that she was about to wake up, but when she heard her voice, she went to check, saying she can't leave until she answers all her questions. Shimiko explains everything to Momo, telling her how her power works. Upon hearing this, Momo tells her that her power is quite powerful and that she can think of more than 200 ways to use it for evil, telling her she's not someone meant to fight and asking her why she wants to become stronger. Shimiko tells her that when she was little, she was very sick and fragile, and even when she was better and discharged from the hospital, the doctors told her not to exert herself too much or run. Momo, upon hearing this, worries because that's exactly what she's been doing with Shimiko. She tells her she shouldn't hide such important things from her, but then Shimiko tells her that she also hid something as important as potentially disappearing if she uses her powers too much. Shimiko tells her she wants to be stronger so that nobody worries about her, confessing to Momo that she thinks her dad is unable to come home because he works hard to pay off the debt from the treatment she had when she was very young. When Momo asks if she knows where her dad is, she tells her that her mom has always told her that he's working as a fisherman on a nuclear-powered submarine aircraft carrier that also hunts giant squids. Momo begins to analyze the situation, but it gives her a headache because it sounds so unbelievable. But she decides not to think too much about it and tells Shimiko that whatever the truth is, her family has always protected her, telling her that there's a seal on the door of her house, and that's why she couldn't find her before. And although it's broken, it protected her from magical girls for a long time. She comments that currently, there are no magical girls actively hunting since they're all peaceful. But there could still be a hostile one who could hunt her if she wanted to. But she also confesses to Shimiko that she thinks her mother is hiding something important. Yuko tells her that her mother is not a bad person. But Momo insists that there's something strange, telling her that she thinks she lied about her father's job. While they talk, Mikan outside the dream sees that Momo is making a face while sleeping and tries to wake her up, thinking she's having a nightmare. Before fully waking up, Momo tells Shimiko that her mother is hiding something and that she would like to interrogate her. But due to interference, Shimiko hears that she wants to hunt her. Upon waking up, Shimiko gets ready to defend her mom from Momo. When she arrives at her house, she tries to stop her, and Momo tries to convince her, but just then Seiko opens the door and tells both of them she needs to talk to them. Inside the house, she decides to tell them the truth and confesses to Shimiko that her father is not a fisherman working on a nuclear-powered submarine aircraft carrier that also hunts giant squids. She tells them that when Yuko was little, she and her husband moved to the city, and the magical girl of that time helped them get the apartment they're in now, where a protective barrier would hide them. At that moment, Momo reveals that that magical girl is her sister, but she's been missing for 10 years, and until now, the only clue she's found about her in all those years is what Seiko is telling them at that moment. Shimiko's mom explains that she was born with a frail body and very bad luck. She believes that she alone inherited all the demonic blood from her family because her sister is very healthy and has no traces of demon blood in her. She also tells them that thanks to Sakura's efforts, Momo's sister, Shimiko's life was saved and her health improved. But she also tells them that Sakura used a lot of magic to heal Shimiko, and that because of this, they had the curse of 40,000 yen per month. She also tells them that Shimiko's father helped Sakura in everything she needed to ensure her daughter's health, confessing to both of them that her father is sealed in that box of Mikans they use as a table. Surprised, Shimiko asks her mother how everything ended up like this, and she explains that she doesn't know all the details. But after Yuko was healthy and Ryoko was born, she went home and found that box and a note from Sakura saying that she accidentally sealed Joshua, Shimiko's father, in that box. Momo, upon hearing the news, becomes sad because her sister is responsible for Shimiko growing up without a father. Without adding much more, she asks both of them to give her some time to think and leaves. After Momo leaves, Seiko apologizes to Shimiko for lying to her but thanks her for being a good daughter. In addition to that, she says she feels relieved that she can now tell them that that box is her dad and decides they will call it Dad Box and they can use it for whatever they need since it is quite resistant thanks to the magic that protects it. Then her mother tells Shimiko that she formed a bond with her father and became his vassal to share a connection and to protect her. After this, Yuko tells her that now that she knows she is in very good health thanks to many people, she wants to thank everyone, including Momo, who not only saved her from a truck but also helped her become stronger all this time. Shimiko leaves her house to look for Momo but doesn't find her anywhere. While looking for Momo, she meets Mikan and asks her about her, although Mikan didn't know she had disappeared and starts to worry, releasing her curse on Shimiko. After calming down, Mikan confesses to Shimiko that there is a place where Momo could be but asks her to go alone because if she goes and hears their conversation, and it causes strong feelings, she could lose control and unleash her curse on them. Shimiko arrives at what was Momo and her sister's favorite place and finds her there. Yuko tells her she wants to make a deal with her and asks her if she would be willing to stop being a magical girl to become her vassal so they never have to be apart. She says if she wants to find Sakura, it's the best option because as her vassal, the magical barrier preventing magical girls from meeting other demons wouldn't affect her, so she could search more freely in the city. The ancestor tells her that it's possible for her to become Shimiko's vassal, deviating from the path of light. Momo analyzes the situation and how, because of her sister, Shimiko grew up without a father. Then Yuko tells her she refuses to lose something, that she won't give up on saving her dad, but she also doesn't want to lose her. She also tells her she wants to become stronger to find Sakura and thank her for how much she helped her and that she will do her best to find her. But she also confesses that she doesn't think she can do it alone, and she insists to Momo again to become her vassal. Additionally, she tells her that if she accepts, she's willing to cook her 3 meals a day so she can eat well and not have to cook. When she's about to accept, Momo asks Lilith what will happen when she accepts since Shimiko, using too much power, could turn into magical ether and disappear, and she, by linking with a weak demon girl, would also lose her powers. The ancestor confirms this, which she had deliberately omitted, and Momo finally rejects the proposal. But despite that, Momo accepts Shimiko's help so they can search for Sakura together. In addition, she proposes that she be the one to search for other demons to get clues about Sakura since being a demon girl, the barriers won't affect her. Shimiko is a little disappointed because in that sense, things don't change much, but Momo tells her she will become her vassal in the future if she ever manages to defeat her, something that Yuko accepts willingly. After this, Momo promises Shimiko that she will never run away from her again, and that they will always be together. After that, before the end of the classes and going on summer vacation, Shimiko writes a letter to challenge Momo to a duel. But when the teacher sees her, she stops her to help her. Then when she writes the letter and gives it to Momo, it's confusing, and Momo thinks Shimiko is inviting her out. When the day comes, both prepare in different ways. Shimiko arrives ready for a duel, but Momo arrives dressed up ready to go out. We see Shimiko and Momo prepared for 2 completely different things, but both understand that they are not prepared for the same thing. Momo even had to borrow clothes from Mikan to look presentable. She asks Shimiko what the plan is, but seeing that she doesn't have one, she tells her they should start by going to the park, and so, unintentionally, they both end up going out together to have fun. After a while, Shimiko realizes something is wrong and asks Momo if she understood that the letter she gave her was for a duel. When Momo hears this, she feels embarrassed for having misunderstood and gets depressed. Shimiko tries to comfort her by telling her she changed her mind and they should just have fun together since she doesn't want her cute outfit to go to waste. Momo agrees, but due to embarrassment from the praise she received from Shimiko, she changes her clothes with her Heartful Peach morphing stick. They both go to a store where Shimiko buys Momo a souvenir. After spending the day together, they say goodbye, and Shimiko asks Momo to wait for a future duel. The next day, Mikan looks for an address, and when she meets Shimiko, she asks her where the place she's looking for is. Shimiko tells her it's in that apartment complex, and Mikan says she thought it was some abandoned ruins, which saddens Shimiko because she lives in that apartment complex. Mikan apologizes and explains that she moved there because it's a very cheap place, and she doesn't want to be a burden to Momo because of her curse. She also mentions that Momo always wakes up early and makes a lot of noise with her extreme training, which also puts her in a bad mood very early in the morning. Then Mikan also reveals to Shimiko that she has a great debt to Sakura and Momo since when she was little. Both helped her contain her curse, so she wants to help them in any way she can. Shimiko asks her for help with her objectives. First, find Sakura. Second, find more demons in the city to meet new companions. Third, undo the complete seal that was placed on her family. Fourth, find out why her dad is a box and how to turn him back to normal. Fifth, she wants to make Momo her vassal. At that moment, Lilith comments that finding Sakura could help Shimiko with most of her objectives since she specializes in seals and barriers. She could help her father return to normal, and she could also remove the seal from her family. They could achieve several objectives easily just by finding Sakura. Shimiko and Mikan thank Lilith since everything was very easy to understand. This puts them both in a good mood, and they start planning what to do and also how to have fun in Mikan's new apartment. But just as they discuss these fun plans, Momo arrives. Both are surprised to see her, and Shimiko asks her what she's doing there. She tells her she came because she wanted to ask her for advice since she wanted to apologize to her mom for going to her house the other day without warning. She says she planned to bring a box of sweets but didn't know if it was a good idea since her dad is now a box, and she doesn't know what she could give her now. At that moment, Seiko enters the house and tells Momo that it's not necessary to give her anything, but if she has free rice coupons, she'll gladly take them. She also tells them all that she could hear them because the walls are quite thin, and since Mikan now lives next door, she heard everything. After that, she leaves. Momo comments that she saw that the other apartment on that floor is also vacant and plans to move there to be closer to Shimiko and train her better. This surprises Yuko, but there's nothing she can do about it. Later that day, Mikan brings some boxes of citrus sweets to Shimiko, and her family is a gift from the new neighbor. This is because her family owns a citrus factory. For her part, Momo brings prime meat and free rice coupons as a gift from the new neighbor thanks to advice from Anri. Seiko, Shimiko, and Ryoko are excited since they don't usually eat prime meat often, and in honor of this special moment, Seiko decides to have a sukiyaki party to welcome the new neighbors. Everyone helps prepare the food, but since Momo is bad at cooking, she accidentally turns the eggs into a colorful, shiny gelatinous substance, so she decides to stop helping. She also warns Shimiko and Ryoko that Mikan always has the bad habit of adding citrus to everything she eats. No matter the dish, she always tries to make them more citrusy. At the end of the day, the meal turns out to be a success, and everyone enjoys the evening, bringing them all closer together as neighbors. The next day, Mikan notices that Shimiko's dad's box is the same type of boxes they use at her dad's factory. Additionally, she says that the ruins of the factory that was in the village are on the outskirts of the city, so Shimiko and Momo decide to go there to investigate and find clues about what happened to her dad. Those ruined factories are the same property that Momo bought since she accidentally destroyed it in a battle. When they arrive at the ruins, Mikan and Shimiko arrive first. Mikan explains to Shimiko that her curse is the result of a ritual her father performed when she was a child. Her father asked the demon to make his factory successful, but as a consequence, the demon left the curse on Mikan. In this curse, she destroys everything so that the energy is absorbed by the ritual demon. Although the curse was stronger in the past, Sakura used her magic to contain it, and Momo helped weaken it even more. Shimiko asks Mikan to tell her more about herself and Momo when they were little. She recounts the story of how they met and how Momo helped her control her curse. But then, she also remembers Momo's food and how scary it looked and tasted bad. Mikan is about to tell Shimiko how Momo danced to transform, but Momo arrives just in time and silences her so she won't say anything more because she's embarrassed. When they finally enter the factory, Mikan realizes that the warehouse containing her memories has been destroyed, saying that when the factory was in ruins, that warehouse was still intact. Mikan realizes that the way part of the wall is destroyed has the shape of the Sakurament cannon, one of Sakura's attacks. Momo tells both of them to search more thoroughly through the remains to find a clue about Sakura's core. This is a residue of magic that remains behind each magical girl when her magical power disperses. While they search, Shimiko hears a voice calling her to check under a rock. There she finds a wand. She runs to Momo to show her what she found, but when she shows it to her, it's just a fork. She tells her she found a wand, but neither Mikan nor Momo believe her and think Shimiko is seeing things because she's hungry, so they go home. That same night when they arrive, Shimiko explains everything to her mother, and she asks if the wand had this form, show the wand that draws the mom. When Shimiko nods, Seiko explains that it was her father's wand and that it has the power to multiply the magical power of their clan and can transform into whatever the current owner desires. Momo realizes how powerful the wand is, but Seiko doesn't remember the name of the wand. Lilith says she also remembers the name of it but tells Shimiko that the wand doesn't have a known original form. Her father mainly used it as a weapon, and it possibly turned into a fork when Shimiko grabbed it because that's her conception of a weapon. Shimiko gets excited because she now has a wand. Her mom tells her to try transforming it, to think of a powerful weapon. Shimiko struggles and ends up transforming the fork into a giant fork, but it ends up being too heavy and falls on her. Seeing the power of the wand, Momo tells her she must take care of it as it is very powerful. Shimiko feels proud of her new weapon and decides to learn how to use it to achieve her goals more easily. The next day, Momo goes to Shimiko's house to install the internet so Shimiko's sister can use Wi-Fi for her homework. Yuko doesn't understand much about this. Later that day, Shimiko meets Mikan and asks her what she's doing. She explains she's using the internet to use Chitchatter, a social network where she can see a different side of her friends, telling her that Momo refuses to give her Chitchatter username to follow her. Shimiko is surprised to learn that Momo also has a profile, and is curious to see a side of Momo she hasn't seen before, so she decides to get her profile by any means. Shimiko plans to create a profile on Chitchatter to then get Momo's profile, and discover her secrets. But since she doesn't know how to use a computer, Momo teaches her how to use them to access websites, warning her that there are also many bad things on the internet that she should try to avoid as a novice demon girl. Now that Shimiko knows how to use the internet, she is determined to get Momo's Chitchatter account to discover her secrets. Momo asks her what she wants to search on the internet, but Shimiko tells her she won't tell her because it's private. She then asks her to leave her alone and thanks her for helping her understand what the internet is. Seiko tells Shimiko that Momo had foreseen a situation like that and left her a book to use if she had problems with the internet. Internet for Dummies. Shimiko says she's offended by being so predictable but that she'll still use the book because it will be very helpful. After much effort, Shimiko manages to create an account on Chitchatter, but discovers that it has more than 40 million users and realizes how difficult it will be to get Momo's profile. In the end, she can't think of a plan to get Momo's profile, so she goes straight to Momo's house to ask her personally for her Chitchatter profile. She asks why she's so interested in knowing her Chitchatter profile, and Shimiko feels embarrassed to reveal that she wants to know it to discover things that might make Momo smile. So instead of telling her the truth, she tells her it's because she wants to keep an eye on her because she doesn't want her to meet other demons who might defeat her before she does. Later that day, while Shimiko uses the internet to check Chitchatter, she receives a friend request from Momo's friends. She views Momo's Chitchatter profile, and they both start chatting. The next day, Momo asks Lilith if she remembers anything about Joshua when he was her guiding ancestor, but Lilith confesses that before she was quite weak and could hardly communicate. But everything changed about 10 years ago, and it had been many years since she communicated with a descendant like Shimiko. She felt very lonely, but now thanks to Shimiko, she feels better. Momo, upon hearing this story, sympathizes with Lilith and decides to give her a day off. She gives her permission to use Shimiko's body again, to which Lilith agrees, and then they plan to go to the hot springs the next day. Once in Shimiko's body, Lilith puts on extravagant clothes but cannot hide her excitement about going out after a long time. While walking, Lilith tells Momo that Shimiko is getting stronger because before, to be able to change bodies, she needed the weather, the mood, and the connection signal between her and Shimiko to be in optimal conditions. But now she was able to do it without any problems, saying that it's all thanks to the training Momo has given her. When they finally manage to reach the hot springs, Momo suggests Lilith pay the entrance fee for her, but in return, she asks her to train, and for each exercise she does, she'll pay her. After a while, she manages to gather the money, and they are ready to enter. Lilith tells Momo to join too, but she refuses because she's embarrassed. Then the light goes out, something that scares Lilith a lot. She confesses to Momo that she's afraid of the dark because for many years while she was weak in her space, she only saw darkness, and it wasn't until 10 years ago that everything changed. But even now, she is afraid when everything gets darker because it reminds her of those days. When the light returns, Lilith manages to convince Momo to also enter the hot springs. There she sees some scars that Momo has, and she comments that she got them a long time ago during her battles as a magical girl but asks her not to say anything. After this, the day ends with Lilith's wish fulfilled to go to the hot springs after many years. The next day, Momo asks Shimiko to go out and look for demons to get clues about her sister's whereabouts. Shimiko agrees and decides to get down to business, but then Mikan explains that unfortunately, none of them can go with her because as magical girls, due to the city's seal, they won't be able to meet other demons, telling Shimiko that she'll have to go alone. Yuko is determined to look for demons, but when she goes out, she realizes she doesn't know where to start. Then she thinks of going with Anri to ask her if she knows where she can find demons. Anri confesses that she knows a place where demons gather, a cafe called Asura located in the Tama Sakura shopping district. She tells her that the store owner is a demon but warns her to prepare for a surprise because his appearance makes a big impression. Shimiko manages to reach the cafe and realizes it has an anti-magical girl seal. When a girl with fox ears and a tail enters, she greets her, and Shimiko thinks she's the owner because she made a big impression on her. The girl invites her to sit, saying they're not open yet but will be soon. Shimiko explains that she's not there as a customer, saying she needs to talk to the owner if possible because she's there because of the notice she saw outside the cafe. The fox-tailed girl understands everything and decides to call the owner. Then a tapir walks in on its two hind legs and introduces itself as the owner, Shirasawa. Shimiko understands what Amri meant by the owner making a big impression, and when the tapir sits down, he says he's injured because the other day they asked him to do a backflip, but being just a tapir, he couldn't do it and hurt himself badly. The tapir tells Shimiko that he had been waiting for demons like her to arrive soon. Upon hearing this, Shimiko is surprised by his abilities, but the tapir asks her if she's there looking for a part-time job. Shimiko tells him no, and the owner tells her that if it was because of the job posting notice on the door. But Shimiko quickly tells him it was because of the other notice on the door, the seal. The owner tells her they need staff because his injuries don't allow him to move so freely. The owner and Liko, the fox girl, manage to convince Shimiko to work there. In the end, Yuko agrees to work and focuses on asking about Sakura after her shift ends. She starts working and serving customers, trying hard to remember what she came to do. But the more she focuses, the more she forgets her goal in going to that place. Later, during the lunch break, Shimiko talks to the owner and tells him she came to that place to discuss something important, but she doesn't remember what it was. Then she starts eating, and because everything is so delicious, she completely forgets her goal. Later that day, Shimiko arrives home excited about her new job and gives everyone the leftover food she received at her new job. Momo and Mikan, upon hearing this, see that Shimiko completely forgot what she had gone to do. Days later, before leaving, Momo and Mikan remind Shimiko of her goal, but she has been forgetting it for days. When she leaves, both agree that she's acting very strange. Mikan tells Momo that the day before, Shimiko even still acted like a waitress when she went to visit her, treating her like a customer. Mikan went along with it unintentionally, and they ended up playing waitress for over an hour. Upon hearing this, Lilith comments that Shimiko might be under hypnotic suggestion without realizing it. Momo decides to initiate the mission rescue Shimiko from her part-time job. Mikan and Momo go to the highest place in the city. There, Mikan transforms, and Momo explains to Lilith that Mikan will shoot her with her crossbow to the Asura Cafe to break the seal so that Momo can rescue Shimiko. The plan turns out to be a success, and Momo manages to enter the cafe. There, she asks to see Shimiko. When she finds her eating, she realizes she's hypnotized. Momo explains to Liko and the owner that Shimiko was sent there as a negotiator, but ended up brainwashed. The owner tries to explain that Liko is a Hulijing fox, and her meals calm people but don't hypnotize them, explaining that the more stressed the person eating is, the calmer they feel, thus directly accusing Momo of stressing poor Shimiko too much and not compensating her properly for everything she has done. Liko confirms that while her food calms others, if someone eats more than 10 meals, they start getting hypnotized and experiencing mild amnesia. Upon hearing this, the owner is surprised since he had no idea about this effect of Liko's food. The tapir sincerely apologizes to Momo because he had no idea about this. Momo tells him not to worry and takes Shimiko home so she can rest and recover. The next day, Shirasawa goes to Shimiko's house to apologize for what he unintentionally caused and meets Momo there. Surprised, he asks her what she's doing there, and she tells him she lives there. When Shimiko opens the door, Shirasawa explains why they are there. Then they take the opportunity to ask him about Sakura, and he tells them he hasn't seen her in 10 years, only having the chance to see her twice, and the last time was on Christmas 10 years ago. At that time, she left Liko to help her and then left. Liko comments that the cores of magical girls can take many forms, including animal forms, as she remembers seeing how the core of a girl transformed into a little monkey in the past. Before leaving, the shop owner gives Shimiko a present as part of his apology. When she opens it, she sees gifts from Tama Sakura, a type of drawing that Momo likes very much. Shirasawa tells her that it's a brand he created himself and decides to make peace with Momo by offering her free merchandise, finally convincing Momo after offering her many gifts. Shimiko asks Momo why she likes Tama Sakura so much, and she says it reminds her of her sister. Upon hearing this, Shirasawa tells her that Sakura has nothing to do with it, that he was only inspired by a cat he saw the day he opened his cafe. A white cat like snow that walked on it without leaving footprints. That night he watched her, and she greeted him before disappearing through the wall of the building in front of Maruma Shopping Center. The tapir says that after that, the cafe was a success, and he always thought it was a spirit that brings happiness to anyone who sees it. Ryoko gets excited when she hears the story and asks the tapir when he saw the cat. He says it was on December 28th, 10 years ago, when he opened his store. With this, they realized that the cat could be Sakura's core. Investigating on the map, they realized that the building it entered is the city hospital, the same one where Shimiko was when she was a child and still very sick 10 years ago. Just then, Yuko's mom enters, saying that 10 years ago, Yuko had mentioned seeing and talking to a white cat. She tells them that Shimiko was fighting her illness, and she told her about a white cat that came to visit her. Upon hearing this, they come to the conclusion that the white cat was Sakura's core. Momo tries to ask Shimiko if she remembers anything about that cat, but she says she doesn't remember anything. To help, Lilith suggests that Shimiko could use her powers to remember. These not only allow her to enter other people's dreams but also their subconscious, so she can access memories of her own and others. Upon hearing this, Shimiko decides to use her powers to find out what really happened and goes to sleep. Quickly, she reaches the section of her memories that may hold the memory they're looking for with Lilith's help. But there, she has poor signal. As she walks through the corridors of her memories, Shimiko sees some needle monsters. Lilith tells her that these may reflect her bad memories. When they spot Shimiko, they approach her. She changes into her battle form and decides to use a box to sneak away without being seen. But she is eventually discovered and has to run. Due to the poor signal and Shimiko's bad memories, Lilith can't maintain the connection and disconnects. Outside, Lilith explains the whole situation, and seeing Shimiko in trouble, Momo decides to do everything in her power to rescue her. Meanwhile, as she flees from her bad memories, a voice in her dreams tells Shimiko to use her wand and turn it into a powerful weapon to get rid of her bad memories. She obeys and transforms her fork into a giant fork capable of eliminating her bad memories. After successfully getting rid of her bad memories, a blurry figure appears in front of her. It tells her to concentrate to give it its full form, and when Shimiko does, it transforms into Chiyoda Sakura, Momo's sister. Excited to see that it's Sakura, Shimiko tells her they need to leave since their mission was successful, and she needs to take her to Momo. But before they can leave, Sakura stops her and explains that if she doesn't concentrate, she'll lose her form. She also mentions that her current form is only temporary and will fade soon, telling her not to search for her core because she has it inside her. Shimiko asks how that happened, and Sakura asks her to go to a specific memory from 10 years ago. There, she shows her how, in her cat form, she willingly transformed into her core to enter Shimiko and save her life, explaining that's why she can't return to her yet. Just then, she starts to disappear, telling her that her time is running out. Seeing this, Shimiko panics and tells her she needs to take her back since if she doesn't, she'll never see Momo smile. But Sakura reassures her, saying she's sure she's already found something important to smile about. She also tells her it won't be the last time they see each other because she'll try to extract some of her power every day to have enough energy to materialize again and talk to her. She also tells her that if everything goes well in the future, she'll be able to remove her core from her when Shimiko is strong enough so she won't have to help sustain her life, telling her to just make sure to become a strong demon girl. Before completely disappearing, she asks Shimiko for one last favor. Meanwhile, Lilith, Mikan, and Momo think of a way to rescue Shimiko, and although Momo offers her blood to Lilith to save her, Lilith tells her they should think of a less risky idea. Inside her dream, Shimiko finds herself facing her bad memories again. But before they can attack her, Momo arrives with a new dark transformation. She manages to save her and explains that she looks like this because she decided to become her vassal and join the dark side to rescue her. Outside, Lilith opens an exit in Shimiko's dream so they can both escape. Once out of the dream, Mikan shoots Momo with an arrow filled with light to bring her back to the side of light. Despite how dangerous the situation looked, her plan works, and Momo becomes a magical girl again. But due to all the accumulated anguish, Mikan, after saving Momo, can no longer contain her curse and ends up destroying Ogura's laboratory. Later that day, back home, Shimiko is nervous about how Momo might react when she learns that her sister is trapped inside her and can't get out. Despite how much she worries, she decides to tell Momo the whole truth. Momo reassures her and tells her not to worry, that now that she knows her sister is safe, she can be more at ease, and decides to continue training her to become a strong demon. When Shimiko tells Momo that it might take a long time, Momo reassures her and says that now that she has found her sister, her goal has changed, and she wants to protect something she found that is now more important to her. Shimiko sees that when Momo tells her this, she smiles broadly, something that makes her very happy because she was able to achieve her goal of making Momo smile. Shimiko creates a story with drawings where she collects everything that has happened to her so far. Anri reads it excitedly because it looks interesting. Shimiko tells her that she hopes to count on her among her ranks when she becomes a powerful ruler of darkness. Anri asks if she really used her vacation to rest. She says her summer vacation was bigger and more sensational than ever, but her friend tells her she should have a bit more fun, suggesting she take a day off to do whatever she wants and enjoy her vacation day. Shimiko tries to think of ways to have fun on her vacation day, but can't come up with anything. She tries to play but can't concentrate, so she decides to go to Cafe Asura to ask what she could do for fun. There, Tiko offers her food on behalf of Shirasawa, but he tells her to stop to avoid getting him in trouble. Yuko asks the owner what are some normal and fun summer vacations. He says the first thing that comes to mind is selling quick lunches. After helping him sell, Shimiko tells him that's not what she meant. The owner is surprised that she helped him for so long without realizing it, and pays her for the work she did, thanking her for her help. Then he tells her that that day is the Heat Defeat Festival, and she could go to have a normal and fun vacation. Seeing that Shimiko is considering going, Liko gives her a traditional dress to wear to the festival. Shimiko gets excited about the festival and decides to go. There she buys everything she wants, has fun, but still feels strange and empty. As she walks and meditates on why she feels this way, she hears an announcement about a lost little girl. When she realizes they're describing her, she goes to the lost children's booth and sees that it was Momo and Mikan who called her that way. They use the loudspeaker to call her and be with her. Shimiko quickly forgets everything and starts having fun at the festival with both of them. As she goes with them, she realizes that's what was missing, enjoying a normal and fun summer with friends. After a few days, Shimiko goes to the cafe to return the dress to Liko, but she tells her she shouldn't have done it because that dress was just a leaf. She transforms the dress into a leaf and shows it to Shimiko. Seeing it, she realizes she spent the whole day at the festival wearing just a simple leaf and feels very exposed. Back home, Shimiko decides to catch up on her summer homework. Momo, seeing her, says she didn't think she was the type to do her homework so far in advance. Shimiko tells her she's a demon but wants to be a responsible one. She asks Momo if she has started her homework, and she says she hasn't planned to do it yet and will take it easy. Shimiko tries to convince her to do the homework, but Momo dismisses it. Then Shimiko sees that in the gift Shirasawa gave her are VIP tickets to the zoo. She tells Momo that if she finishes her homework on time, they can go to the zoo together and use the VIP benefit to hug and pet the zoo's baby tiger. Upon hearing this, Momo gets excited and decides to finish her homework as quickly as possible since the tickets expire in just 7 days. Momo studies and finishes in just 2 days. When she goes to Shimiko's house to show her, she realizes that Yuko still hasn't managed to finish. So Momo decides to get serious and be the one to help and force Shimiko to finish her homework as quickly as possible. Shimiko manages to finish her homework and will soon go to the zoo with Mikan and Momo, so she decides to learn how to prepare a delicious lunch for a picnic. Although she tries, she is not convinced with the lunch she managed to prepare, so she decides to save it and ask Liko and Shirasawa for help since they know how to prepare rich and beautiful picnic lunches. Liko says the first thing is to choose the ingredients, but she also tells her that what's important in any meal, beyond its appearance, are the feelings you put into it. She teaches her how to prepare a recipe while telling her that in the past, she was always pursued because her meals are addictive if eaten too much, and she always had to run. But she's happy because thanks to Sakura, she found a place where she can cook without being chased. She says cooking at the cafe for the boss is a dream come true, and she feels like she's in paradise. Shimiko asks why magical girls hunt demons. Shirasawa explains that they do it because every time they catch a demon, they get reward coins, and if they gather enough, they can grant any wish they want. Knowing this, Shimiko realizes that even though Momo and Mikan would benefit a lot if they hunted her, they have chosen to protect her instead of seeking to fulfill their deepest desire. So, she decides to do her best to make a delicious lunch to put a big smile on their faces so they don't decide to hunt her. When the meat is ready to cook, Liko tells Shimiko it should be done in a wok, but they only have one, and it's being used. Shimiko tells her not to worry and transforms her wand into a high-quality, perfectly seasoned and refined wok with a layer of oil covering everything to cook the food better. Liko teaches Shimiko how to cook the meat in the wok. When the meat is cooking, Shimiko gets distracted for a moment, and it burns completely. Liko tells her it was because the oil was too hot and tells her to try again. Finally, Shimiko manages to finish cooking the food. When she finishes, Liko offers Shimiko some bento boxes to carry the food, but she mentions that what she prepared is enough for 5 people, and only she, Mika, and Momo are going to the picnic. So, she says she has an idea to help her with this dilemma. At the zoo, Momo wears clothes that Mikan lent her because she couldn't find the shirt she wanted for that day in her size. Just then, Shimiko arrives but accompanied by Shirasawa and Liko. Although Mikan has no problem with being accompanied, Momo doesn't seem very happy because Liko and Shirasawa are accompanying them. Then, the tapir tells Momo that they went there not only to accompany them but to tell her something important. But just then, he gets a strong back pain and falls to the ground after stumbling. While helping him, Shirasawa explains to Mikan and Shimiko that his species is naturally quadrupedal, but he chose to walk on 2 legs to blend in, which has damaged his back more. Upon hearing that, Mikan wonders if it wouldn't be better for him to walk on all 4s to attract less attention. Once everyone recovers, they start enjoying the zoo trip. As they walk, a bunch of kids start to gather around Shirasawa, thinking he's a zoo tapir. He tells them he's not part of the pets but welcomes them if they want to pet him. Then, the zoo security tries to take him to his cage, but he explains that he's just a tapir visiting the zoo, and they let him continue. While continuing the tour, Mikan asks Shirasawa what that important thing he was going to tell them before falling due to his back pain was. He tells her that he and Liko, as animals, have sensors that can detect when people are not well, and because of that, they noticed something in Momo and wanted to tell them about it. At the same time, elsewhere, Momo is enjoying the zoo when Shimiko arrives and explains that the others had to go home for various reasons. She apologizes because their picnic has been ruined, but Momo tells her not to worry because they can still eat. After this, they go to some tables, and Shimiko gives her lunch to Momo, telling her she's happy because she wants to be closer to her, and suggesting they find time to hang out together. Then she starts asking her direct questions about why she became a magical girl, what her weakness is, what she wants to be in the future, or if there's any food she hates. While she talks so directly, Momo attacks Shimiko, and she transforms into Liko, who asks her how she could discover her identity. Momo asks her why Shimiko would never be so direct with her and then asks why she wanted to trick her into eating those leaves. Just then, everyone else arrives and explains to Momo that they were worried about her because they noticed that she's quite weak due to her change from light to darkness and then back to light. And they say that because of this, Momo's core is unstable, and those leaves are medicine that could help her. Shirasawa scolds Liko for trying to deceive Momo, telling her she should have told her the truth instead of lying to her. Momo understands and takes the medicine. Shimiko decides to go for water for everyone to drink. When she comes back, she hears some kids talking about how fluffy and soft the baby tiger is. When she gives the water to Momo, Shimiko asks her if she forgot the reason they came, to hug the baby tiger. She realizes she completely forgot. But when they go to the VIP area, it's closed because the time for the day to pet the baby tiger has ended. A few days later, Momo transforms into her dark version. At that moment, Shimiko appears in her apartment asking what's going on because she saw lights and heard a transformation sound. Momo explains that she transformed into her dark version accidentally and can't undo it now. She also tells Shimiko that with that form, she can't contain all the strength of her body and lets out all her power, adding that if she can't control her magic and return to her original form, she will exhaust all her magic and disappear. Both decide to go with Mikan so she can shoot Momo again and she can return to normal. Shimiko and Momo wake up Mikan, who doesn't understand anything because she's still sleepy. When she finally understands what they want to say, she transforms and shoots Momo again. But this time it has no effect. Momo then calls Liko to ask if her medicine still hasn't taken effect, and she tells her that it takes a few days to work, so she can't do anything. Then Lilith suggests asking Agura if she knows of anything they can do since she knows a lot about demons. When they go to call her, they notice that Momo's phone is broken from when she took it early without controlling her strength. But just then Agura appears, saying that a few days ago, she placed a microphone in Lilith's statue and has been watching everything in case they needed her help. Shimiko, upon hearing this, and despite the doubts that arise from how strange and invasive what Agura revealed sounds, her gratitude is greater. Agura explains that based on what she knows, her transformation is due to instability in her feelings, and since her core is unstable, any negative feelings would push her towards the dark side. The solution is to get rid of those feelings and seek to control them so it doesn't happen again. With a bit of sadness, Momo tells them that she knows the reason she's feeling negative emotions is that after everything that happened at the zoo, she couldn't relax and enjoy the lunch Shimiko made. Discovering the reason for Momo's change, Shimiko decides to make a delicious lunch for Momo so she won't be in a bad mood. But since making lunch takes a lot of time, she decides to use the one she saved the other day because she didn't like how it looked. Momo eats the lunch, and immediately she seems to be in a better mood and changes back to her light form. After that, and before leaving, Agura recommends to Momo that she controls her feelings to avoid involuntarily switching to the dark side again. Later that day, Momo is exhausted from all the effort she made. Shimiko tries to cheer her up but doesn't know how. At that moment, Yugura comes out from the roof of Momo's apartment and tells them both that she knows what they could do, but first asks for help to come down as she didn't realize how high it was once she was up there. Once down and without talking much more about why she was on her roof, Yugura tells them that there's a magical spring on the outskirts of the city where Momo could go to regain her magic. Momo and Shimiko leave immediately, and when they arrive at the place, Momo realizes they're on a property that belonged to her sister. At the entrance, her sister left a sign warning that there are fun traps on the property, and that if they manage to pass them, they can reach the treasure of that area. Both decide to enter, and Momo tells Shimiko to be careful with the traps, but just as she says it, she falls into one. Although Sekiro wasn't a bad person and just wanted to have fun, all the traps are safe, and Momo is not hurt. As they progress, Momo falls into another trap while trying to be more attentive. Just then a giant licorice appears out of nowhere to attack the intruders. It goes after Shimiko, who transforms and starts to flee. As she runs, she decides to transform her wand into her version of Miken's crossbow to attack. Her attack succeeds, and she defeats her first enemy. Excited, Shimiko decides to take the licorice's collar as a souvenir, and the sand from where she defeated it. In addition to that, she asks Momo to take a picture to have a memory of her first battle. After everything is done, both move on and reach the magical waterfall. There, Momo enters and starts bathing in the waterfall, which after a while starts to take effect and heal her. Later that day, both bring magical water from the waterfall to Agura, who excitedly thanks them. But when she sees Shimiko's collar, she excitedly takes it as she recognizes it as a magical artifact. Shimiko tries to tell her that it's a memory of her battle, but she's so absorbed in herself by the excitement that she doesn't listen and ends up keeping Shimiko's memory without being able to continue protesting. A few days later, while Miken is fixing her apartment, she finds a cockroach and asks Shimiko for help to get rid of it. She doesn't seem surprised that there are cockroaches and tells Miken that she can gently grab it with a napkin and take it out of her house since they don't bite or harm. Miken asks Shimiko to help her because she doesn't feel capable of grabbing the cockroach herself. When Yuko goes with her to her house, she decides that they should first tidy everything up to then find the cockroach. When everything is tidy, Shimiko realizes that Miken has a lot of old flyers and asks her for them to recycle them since her mom taught her to make little boxes with them to put trash in and then dispose of everything together so that nothing is wasted. When Shimiko teaches Miken how to make these little boxes, the cockroach appears, but Yuko doesn't give her a chance to pick it up. Just then, Momo arrives, covered by all the bad luck of Miken, as while she was losing control of her emotions, it was Momo who suffered her curse. Once inside the apartment, Momo tells them they could make a barrier to keep bugs from entering the apartment. When Momo finishes the seal, she asks Shimiko to imbue it with her magic to activate it. When she does, they hang it on the door, and all the bugs leave, although only for a few hours since Shimiko's magic isn't very powerful. So that Miken always has seals, Momo makes many and asks Shimiko to imbue them all with her magic as part of her training to strengthen herself along with her magic. Later that day, Shimiko's mother asks her to use her father's magic wand to create a super clothesline to dry the laundry. When Momo sees how Shimiko uses her wand, she tells her she should think of better ways to use her power. She transforms her wand into a fan, and Momo scolds her again, telling her that her wand can only transform into anything with a stick-like shape, and when Shimiko realizes that a fan is not a stick, it transforms again into a fork. Momo explains that the limits of her wand are Shimiko's imagination, and that she should train it by creating things that don't exist. Ryoko tells her sister that she could create the famous Yishin giant sword from Chinese mythology, or Odin's Gungnir spear, or she could even create the Amena no Hoko, a mythological spear that can be used to stir chaos. Upon hearing this, Momo asks Shimiko to make a 30-kilometer long stick to see if it can break the stratosphere, and if it falls, she could hold it. Shimiko tries but fails to transform her wand. Then she asks her to make some golden chopsticks to sell and make money, but Yuko only manages to create regular chopsticks. Seeing this, Lilith suggests that Momo practices her magic inside her ceiling space so she can use her imagination more freely. After that, Shimiko enters Lilith's ceiling space along with Ryoko, where the ancestor prepares her with a brigade of 30,000 extreme sparring partners to face. Shimiko starts, but with her creations, she only manages to eliminate a few at a time. Then Lilith asks Ryoko to help stimulate her sister's imagination, and she tells Yuko that she could create magical staffs with powers she uses in the video games she likes so much. Shimiko then transforms her wand into a fire staff and eliminates a large number of sparring partners, then changes to a lightning staff, ice staff, and a super useful candy staff. In the end, she successfully defeats the 30,000 sparring partners. A few days later, Shimiko's vacation finally comes to an end, and she returns to school. Mikan goes to school with Momo and Shimiko, and this will be her first day of classes. At school, she introduces herself, and everything goes well. The teacher explains that Mikan is a magical girl with a curse and that they must be careful. She's open to answering any questions, but the schoolgirls ask more trivial questions, like how she washes her hair or her favorite candies, without invading her privacy by asking about the curse, although Mikan encourages them to ask more about her condition. But among the questions they ask is about how her headband works, and she answers that it's something that emerged from her ethereal body, and that she can move it wherever she wants depending on her mood. Later that day, they all discuss their clubs and which one to join. Anri recommends Mikan to join the tennis club, but she says that all magical girls have enhanced physical abilities and that joining a sports club would be like cheating. While they're all talking, Agura arrives and gives Momo a homemade dark side stabilizing potion she made for her. She can take it to keep her dark transformation under control for a while. When everyone leaves, Mikan asks Anri if she can join the Sports Day committee. Anri tells her that the committee has a great responsibility since Sports Day is coming up soon, and that's why she didn't invite her, as she didn't want her to work hard when she had just entered school. But Mikan insists, and ends up joining the committee thanks to Anri. At the end of the day, when everyone goes home, Shimiko finds Momo surrounded by a bunch of cats, and she explains that she's in the Surrounded by Cats club, trying to explain that she does it to help the kittens and monitor their health, but she gets tangled in the explanation and doesn't manage to explain anything clearly. The next day, Anri tells Mikan that they're behind with the preparations for Sports Day, and that they'll probably stay late that day preparing everything. Mikan says she'll make Momo help so they can finish quickly, and when Yuko realizes that both of them will be late getting home, she decides to join in to help. Anri accepts all the help, and at the end of the day, they start working on the preparations with the rest of the committee girls. There, Shimiko helps prepare the events that will take place, but she soon realizes that if they do the sports events measuring their performance as a goal, all the challenges will be very easy, so she asks to be replaced. Meanwhile, Momo uses her super sewing ability to help make the relay bands. While still helping, Yuko sees that Mikan has become very popular and has managed to make friends. During a moment while the girls are practicing a formation, she falls and is unconscious on the ground for a moment. Momo acts quickly and saves the girls who were close to her, since when Mikan is unconscious from a blow, her curse is unleashed on everything around her. When Mikan wakes up, she sees that her curse caused a mess, but all the girls comfort her, saying it wasn't her fault, and they apologize for letting her fall. The rest of the day goes by normally, but at night, when everyone goes home, Mikan asks to go alone because she feels very sad about what happened. Although Momo and Shimiko try to comfort her, she decides to go on her own anyway. Back home, Shimiko thinks more about Mikan's condition and decides to help her with her curse. When she leaves her apartment, she meets Momo, who had the same idea. They both go to Mikan and tell her they are going to help her. Shimiko tells her she will enter her subconscious to talk to the demon inside her that unleashes the curse. In that moment, Momo takes the potion to keep her dark side controlled, and both successfully enter Mikan's subconscious. Inside Mikan's mind, everything is very dark. Lilith tells them they must try their best not to get lost. Shimiko transforms her wand into a guide to decide where to go. After that, she shows Momo how she has also managed to turn her wand into a candy stick that summons candies from the sky. Momo urges her to stay focused but doesn't waste time and grabs a few candies as they fall. As they progress, they see Mikan trapped in a light being enveloped by dark fog. Momo deduces that this could be the core of the power protecting Mikan. Then, Shimiko decides to transform and summon a delicious lunch, slowly approaching the dark fog while speaking in English to show she's friendly. When Momo asks her what she's doing, she says she's speaking English because the demon is a foreigner. Suddenly, the fog starts attacking to defend Mikan. Momo tries to defend herself, but none of her blows land since the fog isn't solid. Then, Shimiko decides to summon the legendary weapon Amenenu-hoko that Ryoko told her about, which could be able to stir chaos. Momo is surprised, but she only ends up summoning a huge whisk. However, Shimiko starts stirring all the chaos around them, cleansing all the darkness that enveloped them. The dark fog takes shape and transforms into a girl. Exhausted from using all her magical power, Shimiko tells Momo that everything now depends on her and that she must talk to the demon to help Mikan. Momo doubts herself but decides to speak to the demon and gives it some of the candies she had taken before. Thanks to the candies, Yugalu decides to listen to her, but she doesn't think about what she could say to find out more and only thinks about how to attack and defend. Then, Lilith tells her not to resort to violence and to dialogue. But just then, Anri arrives in the outside world and grabs the statue, breaking the connection with Momo. Yugalu senses a slight hostility from Momo, but she tells it that it wasn't directed at her. Then, Momo speaks to Yugalu, but it doesn't understand complex words. Momo uses simpler language to tell the demon to leave and leave Mikan alone, but it tells her it can't do that because it was summoned to protect Mikan, and that's what it has always been doing. Momo asks it how it has been protecting her, and it tells her that since it wasn't summoned correctly, it can't see the outside and only attacks when Mikan unleashes her emotions. Then, Momo explains that this has been causing many problems for Mikan. She tells it that she understands it has always had good intentions, but she comments that it has done a bad job and has only caused problems for Mikan. This depresses Yugalu, which, realizing it has always done its job wrong and can't protect Mikan, has no reason to exist anymore and will now disappear. Suddenly, Shimiko wakes up and tells it that it can't disappear, that she will find a way to help, but neither she nor Momo manage to convince Yugalu. Then, Mikan wakes up and holds the demon, telling it that she doesn't want it to disappear so easily. She tells it to pull itself together and try again to do its job. Yugalu tells her it has been doing that, but it failed, asking Mikan if she's upset. She responds by telling it she's very upset and has had many difficulties, so she won't let it disappear so easily. She tells it not to give up, and finally, it accepts, although it tells them that its current form will disappear soon anyway. Then, Momo says that it will be difficult for her to do something from inside Mikan, and she says it's best to summon Yugalu to the real world now, but this time with a correct summoning. When everyone wakes up, they decide to start the ritual. But since they don't know how to do it correctly, Shimiko calls Yugura, who was on the roof. She tells them they will need several hard-to-find things like a large summoning circle, a meal made by a demon in animal form, the tail hairs of a demonic animal, and sand from a magical place. While they listen, they realize they have what they need to perform the summoning because Shimiko still has the sand from the magical place where she defeated her first opponent, the giant licorice. They can ask Liko to cook for them, and they can obtain the tail hairs of a demonic animal from Shirasawa. After Shimiko gathers all the materials, the preparations for the summoning are ready, and even the other girls from the committee are there to help. When they gather all the materials, they start the invocation, and Yugalu is successfully summoned to the real world. When Yugalu appears, it asks Mikan for a new purpose and goal in life. She tells it that her new goal is to think of a goal on her own. Yugalu feels confused at first but decides to go look for its goal. However, just before leaving, Mikan tells it that it can't leave so easily, that it might be in danger, and that it can stay with her for as long as it wants while it finds its new goal, to which Yugalu agrees in the end. After that, Yugalu manages to adapt and becomes friends with everyone but decides to keep protecting Mikan as best as it can. Seeing how everything turned out, Momo smiles, telling Shimiko that she's happy with how everything turned out and that everything ended so well because of her. She even mentions that Shimiko's way of solving things reminds her of her sister, Sekura. If you've reached this part of the video, comment the word demon in the comments. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss the next part of this anime.